What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're getting ready for something big. Right, Gregory?
Yes, sir.
We got dirty clothes on, as you guys can tell. And we're gonna be upgrading the crank hub on my car.
Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Long overdue.
Yep.
Let's show them what we got.
Let's show the people.
So this is the maximum PSI SSR 4-pin crank hub. They send you a new bolt, the template to drill, and shout out to SSR for sending us 2 drill bits. They're special carbide drill bits.
Yeah, they usually come with 1, but we asked them and they sent us 2 because these usually break pretty easily.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
And then this is the Vargas VTT crank bolt capture kit. It's supposed to prevent the bolt from backing out,
Which is the usual cause of the crank hub failure on these cars.
and then just
This is a
just
full
basic
like
for
kit for the car. We got like a front main seal,
Gas-
oil
oil.
filter, all the gaskets that we need to get this entire job done. This is all the stuff we're gonna be installing over the next like 2 to 3 days because it's a pretty big job. We're gonna be showing you guys basically step by step on how to do this job. So it's gonna be kind of like a DIY video. First, we gotta start off by raising the car and putting, I have no idea what Greg is doing.
Huh? Excuse me?
But we gotta start off by raising the car and putting it on jack stands. All right, we got the car lifted up, got the wheels off, threw the wheels under. So what we gotta do next is we're gonna start tearing apart this entire section on top. So this cover has to come off. This just pops off. As easy as that. Don't mind it being dirty as shit. Next, we're gonna get this off right here. So this brace has to come off, and these plastic guards in the back have to come off as well. So we'll get those off and get back to you guys. So now that we got all these plastics removed out of here and we got the brace removed, we're gonna go ahead and remove this brace as well because this needs to come out so we can get the valve cover out of there. Greg is working on taking this front intake off, and yeah, let's go ahead and do that and we'll go from there. All right, a little update for you guys. We got this cowl piece off of here. Greg got this intake off. And we also got the charge pipes off. We're not gonna go into like too much detail on how to take all those parts off. If you want, you can watch like another video. I think I have one on this channel on how to do charge pipes, so you guys can refer back to that video. But for now, it's not gonna be as detailed, just removing all this stuff. So we're gonna go ahead, remove whatever is necessary to get this valve cover off of here. So as you can see, he's removing that engine cover. And then we can move on to getting this valve cover off here. So Greg's gonna work on that, and I forgot we actually have to move this out of the way as well, which is the top mount intercooler. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that moved out of the way so this valve cover can come off easily. And these fuel lines actually have to come off as well. So I'm working on getting this out of the way. All right, the intercooler is finally off. Now Greg is working on just unplugging that wiring harness that goes on top of the valve cover, and then we can finally start getting this valve cover off. I'm gonna go ahead and take this fuel line off while he does that. Just like that, the valve cover is off. So we're basically done from on top. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the bottom and get all this paneling off before we can start taking off like the fan and the fan shroud and stuff like that. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do next. Okay guys, a little bit of elbow grease later and I got all the shielding off from the bottom of the car. Now we have all the room to work with. So what we have to do next is we're gonna take apart all the bolts for these arms so we can start dropping the subframe. A lot of people don't actually drop the subframe, but we found it much easier to do so. So yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing next. We're gonna be dropping the subframe. Well, first we gotta take these arms off and then we're gonna be dropping the subframe. But there's still a lot of stuff that need to come off from under here as well. There's still like the fan and the auxiliary water pump that's sitting right there that need to come off, which I will show you guys later once we get this subframe out of here. Okay, so Greg got done taking off the suspension bits. Before we can drop the subframe though, we have to drain the coolant and move this this radiator out of the way so we can get some of the bolts off for the subframe. So we're gonna drain all the coolant out. Either way, we had to do that anyway, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we got both of these like side coolers out just to keep them out of the way. And we also drained all the coolant out of the system, which you have to do. Now we're ready to take the subframe out. Before we can take that subframe out, you obviously have to hoist this engine up, or else the engine can just fall down. So we're gonna grab this engine hoist now and hoist the engine up before dropping the subframe. Engine hoist is on. Time to finally get the subframe out of here. Okay guys, we just got the entire subframe off of here. Now we have much more room to work with. So what we got to do now is get this fan assembly out of here and also this auxiliary pump. Since it's kind of crowded in here, I'm just going to go ahead and do that off camera and then I'll get back to you guys once it's off. All right, we got the fan out of here. Took a little bit of work. You got to get all these like coolant hoses and all this stuff off just so the fan can come out. And it's kind of tricky. The fan has to like go counterclockwise out of here. So yeah, that's out of there. Now we can start taking off like these belts and getting that harmonic balancer off of there as well. We actually have to set it on top dead center first. So we're gonna go ahead and set it on top dead center and then we can take off all the belts and everything else. Okay, before we start setting the engine to top dead center, we're gonna work on getting this motor mount off and also the oil pan, because it's much easier to do this job when the oil pan is off. And we'll also change the gasket, put a new gasket in there so we won't have to worry about it leaking later on. So we're gonna work on getting this motor mount out of here because that is also gonna help us to get the locking pin inside the flywheel so we can lock the engine in place. Okay, Greg went ahead and put the locking pin into the flywheel, which is back there. I can't really show you guys because there's no room. But when you try to spin the engine, it doesn't spin anymore. So it's set at top dead center, which you need. You can also tell by putting like a screwdriver in where the piston is and just turning the engine until the screwdriver comes all the way up and until the barcodes on your cam lobes are facing up. So now he's getting the timing tools ready so we can lock the cams. All right, so Greg just set the timing tools in. He's just locking them up now. You know your timing is right if this tool goes in just straight in there, because there's like two forks that lock into your cams. It's a good thing timing was good on this engine. So he's gonna go ahead and finish that up, and then we're gonna move on to the bottom, take the oil pan off. We still have to take off all these belts, like the serpentine belt and the accessory belt as well. We gotta drain the oil first and then drop this oil pan out of while the oil drains out of the oil pan, which we're just gonna have to leave for a little bit so it can drain as much as it possibly can. Greg is here changing the oil filter because we can throw the oil filter in, which is not a big deal. We got a new oil filter right here. There it goes. Instead of wasting time while we wait for that to drain, we're gonna go ahead and get these belts off of here. Okay, basically everything here is off. All the belts and stuff are off. Now all that's left is for Greg to take off this oil pan. pan is finally off of the car. Now we're gonna get ready to pull these cam sprockets out of here, and then we can start working on getting the crank hub out of there, which is kind of tedious, and I can't really... Dumbass. And I won't be able to show you guys exactly what's going on down there, but we're gonna go ahead and pull these cam sprockets off, and then we're gonna go ahead and pull that crank hub out. All right, guys, you need this big ass tool in order to get that bolt off. Why? Because this thing is tightened down to like 400 foot-pounds. Let's see if I can do this by myself. Greg is down there holding it so the crank doesn't spin.
If only there was a third person that can help.
There you go, it's coming.
That's what she said. Put your back into it.
There you go, keep going.
There it goes.
Bro, look at this. Alright, look. This point, right now.
Yeah.
If your bolt ever loosened it that much, look. Your crank is...
That is, whatever he's doing right now, that means timing's gone.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Crank's completely loose.
And the bolt is off. Okay, now we gotta release that tensioner so we can relieve tension on this chain. Okay, we got the sprockets off. Greg is getting ready to take off the front portion of the hub, because this hub is actually 3 pieces. There it goes. Front part of the hub is out. So this is the stock hub. I'll go ahead and show you guys the difference between this one and the new one in a bit, once we get all the sprockets out. Let's see. This is one sprocket. This is a seal that we actually had to take off. That seal sits right here, so that seal has to be changed. So now we got to relieve the tension on the oil pump chain, and then that last sprocket will come out and we'll show you guys what we're working with. So when you guys do take off the cam sprockets, you have to make sure that you label each one, because the sprockets itself are different. These front little shields are not different, but the sprockets are. So as you see, I labeled this one E for exhaust, and this one is labeled I don't know where the label went, there it is, I for intake. Greg is loosening another bolt so we can get the timing guides out of here, because these guides are in the way of the oil pump, the chain tensioner. So we got to get these guides off of here real quick. Just taking the last bolt off, and in order to get that bolt off, you have to take that plug off, which is just an Allen head. So instead of pulling these off completely off the car, which in order to do so you have to take off these Vanos solenoids, we're just gonna hold it up and zip tie it up just like this. Because if we were to take off these solenoids, then we have to change the seals, which we don't really want to do. It's just easier this way. So Greg's just gonna go ahead and zip tie it up right now, and it'll be out of our way, and we can finally get to work down there on the tensioner. Okay guys, the crank hub is finally out. This is the stock one right here, and this is the new upgraded one. So basically the difference is this is 3 pieces, as you guys can tell, and this is just 2 pieces. So this sprocket is one with the hub itself, and then this is separate because it's easier to get the oil pump chain on when this is separate. So all it is just keyed so it can't spin, and this is also keyed as well, which we have to drill into the crankshaft with those drill bits that we showed you earlier. So basically, if this spins, your timing is off. That's all it is. It's only held on by the bolt that goes through the middle, but this will never spin. So that's the only difference. Now we're gonna get ready to start drilling the crankshaft in order to get this in place. We are ready to drill the crank finally. Greg has the drill right now in his hand.
This is the drill with the special carbide tip.
Yep.
So what we did, we put a piece of tape on here to let us know where to stop, because that's how long the pins are. So we're just not gonna pass that.
And you basically need a right angle drill, just like this one, so it can fit up here.
It has to be Milwaukee or else it won't work.
Yeah, if it's not Milwaukee, it won't work. And then you always want to get some lubricant while you're drilling. We're gonna be putting on some PB Blaster while drilling at the same time. So we're gonna get this drilled and we'll get back to you guys. We got it drilled successfully. As you guys can tell, those 4 holes that are around that big hole on the crankshaft is what we just drilled, and it went perfectly. We didn't break the drill bit or anything either. All right, guys, we got the oil pump sprocket on and the chain on. Yeah, it was really easy. No, we're just messing with you. This is actually a really tedious part to get this chain back onto the sprocket, but we finally got it on. The oil pump sprocket for the crank is on there as well. All of that is back on right now. We're gonna go ahead and throw a new front main seal in here, and also this plug right here as well. We're gonna throw those in, and then we can start putting the crank hub back in there and timing it up. We got the new front main seal on. Now it's time to cut the zip tie and let this timing chain guide back down so we can get the new crank hub on here. All right, time for this crank hub to finally go in its spot. Cover is back on. Timing guide is back in its place. Now we're gonna go ahead and throw the cam gears back onto the car, which are right here. All right, we got the exhaust right here, and we're also throwing in new bolts because it's good to change these bolts out. A lot of people don't, but we find it's better. Might as well because they're cheap anyway. And now this basically doesn't really matter how you put it in because it's gonna spin either way. So it's really easy to do timing on these cars. So the cam gears are back on. We set this timing tool so we can tighten these bolts down, which we need to find out the torque real quick. Greg is tightening down the chain tensioner on the side. We're literally basically done with the timing. Chain is tight. Everything went on perfectly so far. He's gonna go ahead and get the torque specs, and then we're gonna torque these bolts down. All right, we got the torque specs. Yep. What is it torquing at, Greg?
20 newton meters and then 180 degrees of angle.
So that was 20 newton meters right there. And now
180 angle.
he's about to do 180 degrees of angle. That's it. Now it's all torqued down. This can come off, but not these yet. In order for these cam locking tools to come off, we gotta torque the crank bolt down. All right, guys, this is where we're gonna call it a night. We'll continue this tomorrow. All right, guys, today we came back and just started working on the car. I went ahead and threw the engine mount in and also the oil pan in there as well. So now I just set the torque wrench. We're getting ready to torque down that crank bolt. Alright guys, we just got this crank bolt all torqued down. Now it's time to assemble this thing back together. Alright guys, you saw Greg put the new valve cover on with the new gasket. We put this intake pipe on as well. So basically everything in the front is all put back together. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the bottom and throw the subframe back into the car. Well guys, we didn't put everything on camera, but Greg got everything on top put back together, and I got everything on the bottom put back together. So we're gonna drop the car right now, put some oil and put some coolant in there, and then bleed the system. We got some new liquid moly, 5W40.
Molly gin.
Alright, this is spicy. Got the oil in there. Now Chris is getting ready to pour the coolant in here. Well guys, we got the car all finished up. Started it, and it seems like it's running perfectly fine, so we must have done something right. I'm gonna go out for a little drive right now to test it out and see how it is. Well guys, I just got back from the drive. Everything is smooth, everything is perfect. That's another job done. We had actually done Greg's F80 M3 as well a couple months ago, and that went smooth as well. So now we just got mine done. Now it's bulletproof. I can finally go fully 85. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful enough if you want to maybe try it yourself. If you do it yourself, there's a lot of like extra parts you're gonna need. So if you need like a list of those parts, maybe DM me on Instagram or something, and I can send you like an Excel sheet or something of all the parts with the part numbers. But without further ado, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.